You are marked. You have a social security number and you can't do nothing without that number. You can't go buy a home, you can't buy a car. Your social security number is going to follow you everywhere. And as long as they can track that, they can track you. There's no need for a microchip. Yeah, a microchip can pinpoint your exact location, but come on. Where do you think you're going to hide? These people got cameras in space. Where do you think you're going to hide? So if these things can fix the economy, if these taxes can repair the economy, how come they have not done it yet? We can spend trillions of dollars on the bailout and trillions of dollars on the freaking war, but we can't fix a pothole or save our children's schools. Why is that? Because these people who run this thing, they want one thing. They want to control the world. They want a new world order.
What do you think the most important thing is for Barack Obama? Obviously, you're here to talk about the anniversary for U.S.-China diplomatic relations, but if you had to say this is going to be the country or the conflict or the place that will define the Obama administration, what would it be?
But he can give a new impetus to American foreign policy, partly because the reception of him is so extraordinary around the world. I think his task will be to develop an overall strategy for America in this period when really a new world order can be created. It's a great opportunity. It isn't such a crisis.
The way we're going to win over the long term is not just militarily. We've got to give them a stake in creating the kind of world order.
We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
After 1989, President Bush said, and it's a phrase that I often use myself, that we needed a new world order, and instead it looks like we got a lot of disorder.
Hitler has often protested that his plans for conquest do not extend across the Atlantic Ocean, but his submarines and raiders prove otherwise. So does the entire design of his new world order. For example, I have in my possession a secret map made in Germany by Hitler's government, by the planners of the New World Order.
Now that we know Vice President Dick Cheney and Senator Barack Obama are distant cousins, the New York Post decided to check into the genealogy of President Bush. And his family tree has people talking. Early Show national correspondent Tracy Smith has the story of George W. Bush's many relations.
My honor to bring to you the 41st president, a great dad, George H.W. Bush.
We all know his father, but what about his cousins? Check out this family tree, done with research by Ancestry.com.
What would you say if I told you he's related to all of those people?
That you're wrong.
Oh, no, I'm not. Let me take you through this, branch by branch.
The 101st Airborne Division, air assault.
Vice President Dick Cheney, the man who's only a heartbeat away from the presidency, is actually a blood relation. He's President Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Cheney's cousin Barack Obama is also Bush's 11th cousin and the 9th cousin of Brad Pitt. But we're only just getting started. President Lincoln was President Bush's 7th cousin 5 times removed, and Bush shared more than just a ballot with John Kerry. That's right, they're 9th cousins twice removed.
Really? What do you think of that?
Yeah, they have the same chin.
There's also royalty in the Bush bloodline. Princess Diana was Bush's 11th cousin twice removed. And then there's this bombshell.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Sure, she may have been singing to JFK, but what about GWB? He is, after all, her 9th cousin 3 times removed.
Maybe it's the eyebrows. I think the
eyebrows. They have the same eyebrows?
He's also related to Playboy founder Hugh Hefner, even Pocahontas, and Vlad the Impaler. Trace the family tree far enough, and you get Madonna, Celine Dion, and Tom Hanks.
So last September 17th, I became the first journalist in U.S. history to go to the U.S. National Archives and the Library of Congress and pore over the thousands of pages of documents in both places to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt or any refutation of the facts that Prescott Bush, the grandfather of George W. Bush, and George Herbert Walker, his maternal great-grandfather for whom his daddy is named, were Nazi traitors to the country who should have been tried for treason. 2 weeks ago, in early August, a major world newspaper, The Guardian of London, finally got on the story internationally, and they flew a renowned reporter of theirs named Duncan Campbell over to Washington to take me back to the archives and Library of Congress so that they could verify that these explosive documents were real and I didn't have forged copies. Prescott Bush was the grandfather of George W. Bush and the father of George Herbert Walker Bush, and George Herbert Walker Bush is named for his father-in-law, George Herbert Walker. Prescott Bush graduated from Yale in 1917 and was in Skull and Bones with E. Rowland Harriman, who was the younger brother of W. Averill Harriman. So he brought Prescott Bush first into Brown Brothers Harriman and then Union Banking Corporation. In actuality, it was anything but a bank. It was essentially a Nazi money laundering operation that had a lot of tentacles into a lot of different other businesses. They owned a shipping line called Hamburg American Line, for example, which was the first Nazi front business seized, although the line was no longer operational in 1942. In the early 1930s, it transported Nazi spies into the U.S., and then their promotional ads offered cash rewards to any American citizens who would go back on Hamburg American Lines and proselytize for Hitler. 8 months after the U.S. had entered the war, the New York Herald Tribune ran a front-page article, Hitler's Angel has $3 million in U.S. bank. And it caused a major scandal and just rocked the world of politics. Brown Brothers Harriman, which George Herbert Walker and Prescott Bush were affiliated with and partners in, worked with I.G. Farben, which operated Auschwitz. Prescott Bush, he did a number of things that were not only anti-American, but were pro-Hitler, and he did all that he could to proselytize for Hitler and the rise of his Third Reich, because the largest client, Fritz Thiessen, of his patron, W. Averill Harriman, dictated what kind of behavior he would practice to enhance his own career. So he was put on the board of directors of Union Banking Corporation, and he was also a shareholder in Union Banking Corporation along with E. Rowland Harriman. But what's interesting about what the documents show is that they clearly state that all of the shareholders were phantom shareholders for Fritz Thiessen and did his bidding directly. So the point I'm making is it's not as if they bought these shares of stock as a passive investment to hopefully profit from the war. They were directly doing the bidding of the individual who built the Nazi war machine. Some very shocking documents that I saw at the Library of Congress 2 weeks ago on August 10th. On August 9th, had to do with the hearings of the McCormick-Dickstein Committee of November 1934, show that Prescott Bush and the DuPont family, the Remington family, and J.P. Morgan tried to overthrow the U.S. government, assassinate FDR, and put a Hitler-style fascist state in place. I have in my possession testimony from the McCormick-Dickstein Committee in November of 1934 by one of the fascist plotters that they were going to follow Hitler's model exactly and impose martial law on the United States, round up unemployed people that were worthless to the economy and troublemakers and Jews and put them into internment camps. And their plan was, if necessary, to exterminate the people that could not be part of the effort. The only reason the coup attempt in 1934 didn't succeed is that they hired the wrong general to lead it, General Smedley Butler, the great Marine hero, two-time Congressional Medal of Honor winner, who worked with the plotters just long enough to be able to identify who they were and then blew the whistle on them to Congress. Incredibly, after being warned by the FBI and the Justice Department and the Treasury Department to cease and desist in their Nazi dealings, they had continued them until 1951. There had been 28 additional seizures of Nazi assets and Nazi business fronts between late 1942 and 1951, and that they had moved Nazi assets into Switzerland, Brazil, Argentina, and Panama, and they had continued to do business with their primary Nazi patron, who was Fritz Thyssen, who backed Hitler beginning in 1921 and who was the wealthiest man in Germany, and a steel and coal baron who, with his partner Friedrich Flick, essentially built the Nazi war machine along with I.G. Farben. In 1951, when Fritz Thyssen died in Argentina, Union Banking Corporation was liquidated by the U.S. government, and Prescott Bush received $1.5 million for his holdings in his Nazi business, and that was the beginning of the Bush family fortune for all intents and purposes. George Bush doesn't take his philosophical foundation from the Bible or the teachings of Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. George Bush takes his inspiration from what he learned in Skull and Bones and from the Thule Society that Hitler and Goebbels and Goring cut their teeth in, Bohemian Grove, these evil organizations that perpetrate the ugly things that these criminals are doing to this country for which they must be held accountable. Now you look at the Republican National Convention this week, and you bring in Arnold Schwarzenegger to speak last night. Schwarzenegger is the son of a Nazi. He has praised Nazis. He has praised Hitler. He talked last night in terms like, we will not falter, we will not waver, we will win this war on terror.
He's a leader who doesn't flinch, who doesn't waver, and does not back down.
Well, that's exactly the speeches that Hitler made after the Reichstag fire. Terrorism and the homeland being under attack are precisely the issues that Hitler used to subvert everything within the German system of government. This is a criminal regime. They not only emulate Hitler, but its genesis comes from Hitler. And I defy anyone, a historian, journalist, author, anyone, to come forward and disprove my premise that you cannot differentiate Hitler's invasion of Poland in 1939 and the Reichstag fire and his attempt to dominate the world from George W. Bush's unprovoked invasion of Iraq and subversion of the Constitution through the Patriot Act after 9/11, which I submit is his Reichstag fire.
They want to destroy the currency. They want the dollar to crash so they can create a one world currency that they control. It's just that simple. Now the problem is this. They can't agree on who's going to control everything. They can't agree on what country is going to run what. And also, they don't have every country under their control. Now, the whole thing is most of these leaders of these countries just want peace. They just want to, run their country and live normal. Now, what happens is when they go in there and they try to get the leaders of these countries to join this whole organization, and their leader says, no, I don't want no parts of it, then they scream terrorists. Or they create a reason to go in there and cause a war with that country. We are known for this. America is infamous for that. But that's the reason why they go in there. They say, hey, such and such terrorist did this. And they use the news media to convince the people, to convince the American Congress that, hey, we need to go in there. We need to go into this country and save these people. They are being attacked, such and such. And what they do is once they get in there, they remove that leader and put in place somebody who is already a part of their organization. Now, the reason why Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam was killed was because Gaddafi, he basically wanted to take gold and share it with the people and back his money with gold, back the money by gold. And he wanted to basically change the world reserve currency from the dollar to something better, to gold. Saddam wanted to do the same thing. Saddam wanted to basically take gold and make that the world reserve currency, and they was working towards that. And of course Saddam had oil, so that was like a big thing. Now you gotta understand the dollar is the world reserve currency. Now what that means is major commodities like oil and gold are priced in dollars. So these things are backed by the American dollar. So if the dollar is doing bad, then gold is doing bad. Gold goes down and oil goes down. And if you got a buttload of gold, like Gaddafi had gold and Saddam had oil, then of course you want it backed by something that's valuable. Gold stands on its own. Oil stands on its own. So why are they backed by paper? Now, people don't understand what's going to happen if the dollar crashes. If you got $100 million in the bank, cash money, it's going to be paper. It's going to be worthless. So if the dollar crashes, everything you have that's money is not worth anything. So all the stores are going to close because we're not going to know what's valuable yet. We're not going to know what's the new currency. So stores are going to close. Supermarkets are going to close. And if you ain't got no food, then what are you going to do? It's going to be riots. It's going to be looting. It's going to be robbing and killing. You've seen this whole show, Doomsday Preppers. I mean, that's what they're preparing for. They're preparing for this. Not just them. The government is with these whole FEMA camps.
Police state.
Ask one of them why they're here.
What's up, nigga? Police state. Police state, man. Police state. 4th of July. Here's our video. M16s.
Because we don't live in a police state, sir. Martial law has not been established.
November 1st could be a very, very, iffy kind of a day. And I'm not just talking about what many in the Catholic Church view as All Saints' Day. This could be all hell breaks loose.
The door, sir. He's got his hand up. You're going to kick my door. You kicked my door down. You kicked my door down.
Get on the ground.
You kicked my door down.
Yes, we did. Get on the ground.
No, you have no right to be in here. You have no right to be in here. You have no right to be here. You have no right to be in here. Do not touch her. You are assaulting her.
Security spending $80 million on a raft of armed guards to protect the IRS and other government buildings in New York. Not from terrorist threats, mind you, but from American citizens, because on November 1st, the food stamp program is set to start decreasing the amount that is allocated to food stamp recipients. Not all, but a good many, and they're worried that violence...
Yeah, I didn't open up the door. I would open up... Now they're barging in my door for one reason!
Down the ground, down the ground, down the ground, down! Down with your hands! Hands, come to me, come to me, come to me! Don't move! Please, don't move!
Top story headline: Chase Bank limits cash withdrawals, bans international wire transfers.
We'll see martial law take effect across the country. And more importantly, will people just accept it entirely out of fear?
It was never meant that we would have this gigantic police force from the federal government. I mean, we had martial law up there, FBI and all these agents coming in and closing things down, going to people's houses.
The police state is staring us in the eye, and it's getting more and more imposed upon us, and more imposed on society every day. More and more people are waking up faster and faster and faster.
I think it could very well come to that based on the things that are happening in the news, and we're seeing, the collapse of our economy, so many different things happening.
I have spoken with one federal agent, and the information succinctly boiled down is this. There is an event coming, Steve, in the very near-term future that is going to affect the United States of America to its very soul. That what is being planned, as you and I are on the air tonight, and what has been coming together into that old term, the perfect storm, is literally brewing right over our heads. It is and includes military maneuvers in the United States, military actions that are forthcoming, and that will be so deep and so penetrating that the United States will never be the same.
who have heard about the NSA spying on us all and think, no big deal. I'm not a terrorist, so I have nothing to worry about. Think again. Because we are all potential terrorists, according to the American government.
You can't just do these kind of things. And this one is not only repealing the principles of liberty, but it's destroying the Constitution.
All of these invasions of our personal privacy under the guise of protecting us, they're just wrong. And it's no longer about keeping us safe. This is about keeping us safely under the government's eye. And it is clear the government is watching all the time.
Oil looks higher. Gold looks higher, currencies look weaker.
More about this currency crisis you see erupting. What does that assume about what's going to happen to the dollar?
Well, it assumes that the dollar will utterly get destroyed and become virtually worthless. I don't know how that inevitably resolves itself. It may resolve itself in some type of a global currency crisis. And then if the global currency crisis unfolds, then inevitably you get I guess an alignment under a global world government, a new global currency, and a new world order.
That's why they're trying to take away your guns. That's why they want gun control, because they know it's not a question of if the dollar's going to crash, it's when, because it's going to happen. There is very little we can do to fix it, but it can be fixed. That's one of the reasons why I'm making this video, is because y'all need to wake up and see what's going on. Now I want to show you something, and the first thing people do is when they see something that frightens them and scares them, they don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe it's true. They want to just turn and walk away from it. And that's what they want you to do. They want you to look at this stuff and just be like, it's not possible. But you got to realize, in Nazi Germany, those Jews did not think that was possible. When those Jews were warned, when it was warned that, hey, this could happen, Hitler is going to take over and they're going to be killing Jews, those Jews who stayed was like, man, please, that's not going to never happen. How could that possibly happen? And look what happened. Now, the warning has been given. People are trying to, they telling you, they basically trying to tell you what they're preparing for, what's going to happen. If the dollar crash, if you ain't got no guns, if you ain't got no stockpile of food, I'm not trying to scare people, I'm just telling you the truth. You're going to be in trouble. They got these FEMA camps going up and they got freaking rows and rows of coffins prepared for this very thing.
And I was sitting there going over my notes, and a van pulled alongside of me that turned out to be the property owner. And he greeted me, and he was by himself, and so we had a good little dialogue there, and I asked him about the field of black boxes. What were they? Because I'd never seen anything like that, and his statement was that if he told me, I would be one of few people in Madison, Georgia that knew about them. And he says they're disposable coffins, I believe he told me. And he says there's 100, at that time, he said there was 125,000 there. And they were stacked, he told me, 15 high. I asked him who owned them, and he stated that the CDC owned them and that they were leasing his land for storage. And he said his brother worked with the CDC in Atlanta and had been asked by the CDC to do a 3-year extension to place temporary morgues all across the nation.
Now I want you to see this video and understand that it's possible to stop this just by you knowing and getting this information in this video. So when the time comes when they're trying to pass these stupid laws and they're trying to pass all this crazy stuff, there are going to be people who step up and protest. You need to be one of them, because as long as you speak out, then things will get done. Tupac said it best: the power is in the people, and politics we address. So if you address these things, there's nothing that they can do. You can fix them. The people have the power, still do, and always have. You just gotta leave the Britney Spears stuff alone, and leave the Jay-Z stuff alone, and leave all these distractions alone. Once you do that and wake up and see what they are doing, then things will change and something will get done. Now take a look. Now you have to understand that all of these mass killings, all of these shootings are to take away your guns. These things are controlled. They engineer these things. This ain't no coincidence. This ain't just random people doing crazy stuff. These people were set up to do these things. So all these shootings, the whole Sandy Hook thing, the whole movie theater shooting with the whole Batman thing, the whole thing with the freaking black bald head dude, the guy who went down to the Navy Yard and killed all those people. This dude had clearance to get in the building. He was military. This guy came out and said that they had some kind of weapon that they was using to control his mind. He was calling the cops. Take a look.
December 16th, 2012, Dabu 7. I'm about to share with you a little information. It's probably going to turn your stomach because you're going to really start to realize how set up this is. Pass this information along, post it in forums, wake people up. This is what I'm talking about when I want you to get people to understand that this is a big setup. What I'm showing you right here is a clip from The Dark Knight Rises. As all of you know, the shooting happened in Aurora, in Colorado, during the premiere of The Dark Knight Rises. Now, this is a clip from that movie, and right in front of your face it says Aurora. Okay, and that ain't all. That was just one shooting. I'm about to show you the good stuff. This is from the same film, and this is just crazy. This is absolutely crazy. Do you see what this says right here? Sandy Hook. It is the only thing on this map that you can read besides Gotham. And Gordon says to mark the truck, get a GPS on it so we can start to figure out how to bring it down. This is what they're doing in Hollywood. This is what they're doing right in front of your face, right under your nose. This is all there. Here's another clip within a second of this. Guess what? He points to it and he puts his hand on it.
The burning question in some minds is, does the government run psyops against its own people? False flag attacks and the like. The answer is yes, as both the evidence going back decades and the government's irrefutable admissions proves. Just because talking heads on TV tell you it's crazy to believe such things doesn't make it any less true. Why do you think they're on TV telling you this in the first place? Their job is and always has been to sell you the government and the construct of our society, among other things. So, with that in mind, consider, if you will, the Sandy Hook shooting hoax. How could a whole town be in on it? Greed? Fear? The more appropriate question might be, if a whole town is willing to go along with a staged attack, just how accurate is my worldview? You may remember Veronique Posner, or Veronique Holler Posner. Her detailed memorial for Noah Posner, the son she claims to have lost, was featured by CNN's Anderson Cooper. Take some time to learn more about Veronique Holler, and you'll find she's a legal counselor for the government of Switzerland. You can reach her directly at Switzerland's embassy in Washington. It gets much worse, though. As I said, she is only pretending to have lost a child. Following the trail of Veronique's friends and family, you arrive at Patricia Ordonez Holler. Right at the top of her Facebook photos page is the familiar face of Noah Posner, and what looks like his sister, and two drawings obviously made by a child of about 6. But the strange heading above the 4 photos reads, 10 years ago, happy birthday Kevin, we love you. One of the 2 drawings reads, quote, Pappy Dirk, have a great birthday at the island, from Kevin. Examining the photo, we've all been told is of Noah, we see its EXIF date is Saturday, December 15th, 2012. Only one day after the Sandy Hook event. Isn't it more likely the photo said to be of Noah is really that of Kevin, taken 10 years ago? Also receiving much attention from the media, including CNN, was Noah's supposed uncle, Alexis Haller. Just 4 days after the event, he remarks, quote, "What we don't want is for the same old debate where one side of talking heads talks about gun control and the other side of talking heads talks about culture, and 10 days later it's forgotten, and then we wait for the next shooting."
Who and why did they not request the Lifestar helicopters, knowing that children and school staff are seriously injured and clinging to life? Those are one of the quickest and effective medical services they could have received, and no trauma helicopters were ever requested. Again, no trauma helicopters for the victims, but we had a helicopter recording the scene, didn't we? Number 2, who and why did they not allow the paramedics and EMTs inside the Sandy Hook school to treat the seriously injured or those children and school staff clinging to life? Who the heck made that decision and why? Number 3, who declared all 18 children and 6 school staff members legally dead within the first 11 minutes? Think about it. 26 people declared dead within the first 11 minutes. Also, Connecticut law states that only a doctor can declare them dead. Number 4, who provided the urgent medical care to the 2 children who were not transported to the Danbury Trauma Center until an hour after the school was deemed safe for that 15-mile drive? Number 5, who treated those 2 children who had been shot multiple times, like 3 to 11 times, since they did not allow the paramedics and EMTs inside the Sandy Hook Elementary School? Why did the parents of the 2 children who died at the Danbury Hospital not allow their children to donate their organs to other children waiting for the gift of life? Number 7, what happened to the 500 children and 60 school staff members from Sandy Hook Elementary School on December 14, 2012? Approximately 700 students were present, says CNN. There is no footage of the massive evacuation of 700 people or even 500 plus people. Number 8, who was the police officer calling into the Newtown police dispatcher at 9:55:28 stating in his words that we should have multiple weapons, a long rifle and a shotgun? How would he know about both of these guns when the long gun was found in classroom 10 and the shotgun was found in the back of Adam Lanza's trunk at night? Number 9, why was the trunk so clean as if it was a new car? Number 10, why would a police officer by the name of Lieutenant Van Haley at 9:45:21 a.m. on December 14, 2012 from the Newtown Police Department, after finding a kindergarten female child in the hallway, make her go into room 8 and leave her? See, room 8 was the supposed gruesome crime scene with children and school staff. The official report quotes, "In all, 17 people were killed in classroom 8. Why would you leave the child in there?"
The bombing scene was a controlled set. What I mean is that the finish line area was staffed by both innocent or complicit individuals and a huge number of hoax participants. The possibility that so many people from such a diverse array of agencies and private groups would be confident enough to pull off such a blatant hoax indicates participation at the highest levels of authority. The criminals were in charge, and anyone who might otherwise frown upon staging a terror attack was being managed by criminals. One of the first noticeable screw-ups in the planning or execution of the hoax was the missing Jumbotron. In video and photos said to be taken before the bombings, a large digital video screen was positioned at a nearby cross street. In videos and photos of the bombing and its aftermath, the video screen is gone. Some will claim that they packed it up before or after the winners were shown, but it doesn't make much sense that the screen would be sponsored for only half of the race.